I hate saying this, but I've cried myself to sleep more times than not in the past a year and a half. And you can't explain that to your kids. You can't, it's hard to talk to them and they don't understand, especially if they're young. My daughters are 5 and 3, and they were 4 or 3 and 2 when this happened.
So, thank you for jumping on the podcast. And if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your situation.
Yeah, no, my name's Christian. I'm 28. Um, got two little girls, 5 and 3. Um, I've been separated and going through a divorce and false allegations for the past almost 2 years now. And it's made me learn a lot about life. It's hit me like a ton of bricks, and you know, made me grow and become a better person because of it. Even though that's hard to say and it's hard to, come to terms with that, but I've become so much better, and because of the situation that I'm in. It's hard because, I'm 28, so
Yep.
it's like I'm young, and this experience in the past year and a half has I've grown exponentially in every possible aspect of my life. You know, physically just maturing, emotionally, intelligently, spiritually, you know, um, it's just been hard and difficult, but it's weird and uncanny, being this young and going through this. I know there's men that are younger than me and older than me. It's just a
Yeah.
it's a hard thing to deal with, and it's a hard position to be in. I've got two little girls. They're 5 and 3, and I can see what's seeing them, and excuse me, I see what they're going through and how it's hitting them, and it's hard to stay positive, and it's so difficult. But at the end of the day, you know, we as men and fathers, we have to be that rock of foundation for our families, regardless of
Yeah.
anything. And it's staying positive. Staying positive is it's impossible
Yeah. You got
sometimes,
to stay
you
positive.
know?
And the hard part is it's so hard seeing your kids, these things that had nothing to do with anything, going through this situation that you and your ex have created. And, it's literally, I've sat and cried because my kids are going through such a hard time for no reason at all. It's tough.
You're absolutely correct. I hate saying this, but I've cried myself to sleep more times than not in the past a year and a half. And you can't
Right.
explain that to your kids. You can't. It's hard to talk to them, and they don't understand, especially if they're young. My daughters are 5 and 3, and they were 4 or 3 and 2 when this happened. So it's like explaining it to them. They just have no concept of what's going on, and they ask questions, and it's hard because you're trying to navigate that space of how do I talk to them. What I found is just pouring more love into them, just saying we're not going to talk. It's not saying we're not going to talk about it, just saying, that we love you and that you're loved, and,
I
it
feel
all
like
makes sense,
Yeah, I feel like that's all you
when we
can
can
do
talk
because
about
you
it.
can't explain the situation to them, especially at 5 and 3. They do not understand. As much as you want them to understand, they will have no clue. They
Yeah.
might say, "Oh, yeah, I get it." No, they have no clue.
They have no idea. All they know, especially at that age, is just, mommy and daddy. They see a little bit of the superficial stuff, such as, y'all are living together, we're not here. And you can't do anything about what the other parent is saying. And that's the hardest thing. One of the hardest things is letting go of that, sense of worrying about what they're saying about you, because you can't control that. The only thing you can control is what you do and what you think and what you pour into your children and your family and just everyone around. And even though it is so hard to just not, because I find myself slipping into that, I want to say something. I want to, not be rude, but make a sly comment when our daughters say something, but it's like having to catch myself and biting your tongue, because the only person that's hurting, you think it's going to, whether you want it to hurt the other parent or not, it's only hurting the children. It's driving a wedge in their eyes. And that's the last thing, because that's how I was raised. My mom said a bunch of stuff about my dad. I'm 28 and I have an amazing relationship with my father. And I've come to learn that, all that stuff that she said when
Yeah,
I was
but it
growing
was
up
time
isn't
wasted
true.
growing up. And just like you said, with that putting a wedge in between, the kids and the parents, that's 100% true. It's like the kids don't know, what side to pick. Who do who do I go to? But when you have someone talking shit or whatever about the other parent, the kids tend to cling on to that
Yeah,
parent who's, doing the right things.
right. And it's just hurtful. And it doesn't hurt anybody but the children. All we can do is, give them the best, what we never had, even in the worst kind of
Right.
situations.
So in your situation, like what happened, like what, if you want to talk about it, but what happened with you and your ex and why did you guys split?
Yeah. Yeah. We found out we were pregnant after about 6 months of dating with our first daughter, and we got married at 22. We had her at 23. I just turned 23. Um, I never really had the best example of what a husband and a father looked like. My dad, when I was 2, he abandoned my family. That was what I was told growing up. And my stepdad, who stepped in, was just the provider. He went to work. He was a police officer and still is a police officer. And I never really saw him because he was working or sleeping. So that's all I knew how to do. And I got so egotistical and so prideful and arrogant, and because I was young and stupid, and take this with a grain of salt. It's not all my fault. It takes two to it takes two to get here, and it takes two to get out of here. I know my flaws and I know my faults. I was never the best husband. I could have been a lot better, and I let my pride and stupidity lead me where I shouldn't have let it lead me. Um, I had a huge blowout argument, and she left and she took the girls, and that was a day after my birthday. So it was the seasons of my birthday the past 2 years have been really, really hard. Um, it's I went 6 months without seeing our children, and I say that I didn't have any idea where they were living. I was only able to see the girls via video calls, or I got to spend a Saturday with them. But outside of that, it was meeting at a police station, having police there to drop off the girls because there were false allegations. There still are. We're still in the midst of all of this, so it's hard to navigate all of that to figure out how I'm supposed to separate myself from the marriage of 5 years and raising and starting a family, to then this, and kind of still wanting to have that marriage and still have that family dynamic, but also having to kind of self-preserve and do what's best for our family, even if it is separation is what's best. It's hard. It truly is hard. But like I said, I've grown a lot in the past year and a half, almost 2 years, and it's changed my life for the better. I've seen, who I was, and I've grown tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, having a kid at 22 or 23,
Right.
that is still so young. But once you
Yep.
have your child, especially when I had my first kid, say I was 22, but
Mhm.
you change. All my friends are partying, they're chilling, they're hanging out, and I'm
Yep.
in dad
I'm a,
mode.
yep.
I didn't lose all my friends, but
The amount of
I was
time.
parenting. At 23
Yeah,
years old, so it's you definitely grow and become a lot more mature quicker.
truly. And then, something like this, it's kind of, I sold cars for a long time, and we had an old saying in the car business was, you get hit in the head once to learn never to get hit in the head again. So it's kind of like, you get hit in the head with a brick. Um, and I kind of take that to my situation. It's, I had, it was a growing up, situation. I saw who I was and how immature I was. And this made me realize that I can't be that person for my family, for my daughters, for our daughters. I can't, who I wasn't a, a good leader, a good spiritual leader, you know, all of that. And I've kind of changed every part of my life to fit and to become a better man, to become a better father first for our daughters. Because at the end of the day, I'm an example of how a man should treat them when they start looking for a husband or they're in the
Right.
dating scene. It's especially now, it's kind of really toxic, the dating scene. I can't imagine in 20 years when they're, that age, what it's going to look like. So I want to set that standard of how a man is going to or should treat you and what you should expect from a potential spouse or even just a friend, or just how men should treat women.
Yeah, we're kind of losing that too. I still open it, like I'm married now, and I open the door for my wife every time we walk in or out of a building. Um, but and then you'll see some people will be like, "Oh wow, like that's so nice of you to do that," or people are surprised that people are still doing that. It's almost like we're losing that as young men or men in general.
We are, and not to get into it, but it's tragic, it's tragic. The home life and I say traditional, which is being married, having kids, and living a life and growing a family, is not really the standard of living anymore. And
Right.
it's, I'm not sure how to say it. It's hard to see that in people. It's because I was under the impression when I was in college, I wanted to go out and party and all this stuff, but I never did that. And, once we got married and we had kids, it's just life changing. I was happy, even though I wasn't, doing the best that I was supposed to. I still found joy in little things and having that connection and that intimacy with one person. And then, with
Yeah.
our daughters and having that relationship and then growing and seeing them grow up and teaching and working with them. It's an amazing experience. And it's like, I wish everyone could have that, because
Yeah.
it's wonderful. It just changes your thought process, because it's like you now want to pour everything that you have into something else to make it better than what you have or what you had.
Yeah.
And that's really just what I'm trying to do, right now in the midst of all of this.
Yeah. So what were some of the allegations that were put on you? Because it's funny, in the beginning, you're probably a great husband, a great dad, but as soon as you guys split, you probably become, the worst, the worst dad out there. It happens to so many
It and
dads
it
out
is
there.
and it is tragic when it's baseless. I was uh recently, CPS was called. Um that was an open and shut case. I spoke with them on a Friday, and Monday I got another call saying, "Hey, you're all in the clear. We don't see that you're any kind of danger to the kids or anything like that." And that was something that almost killed me, because I never in a million years thought somebody would do that, especially my wife.
Right. Yeah.
Just I've made the false allegations are, it's being threatening, violent, hostile, with no what's the word, evidence of it. It's hearsay at best, and it's only hurtful. It's it only damages anything. It's because running and hiding from the problem instead of communicating really doesn't help. And getting bad advice from people, but yeah, it's really just abuse was one of the biggest allegations. And that's when she left in September, and we didn't go to court until February. And once we got our temporary orders, I was able to see the girls more often and whatnot. But it was those 6 months. It was under the guise of, oh, he's threatening me. He's threatening
Yep.
to take the car away. When it was, hey, the car needs an oil change, or hey, something's going on. Well, hey, I expect to have the car back so I can get it fixed. It's, oh, you're threatening to take the car away from me.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks too because there are dads out there who are assholes and really are doing that type of stuff. But then there's the
Right.
dads. It makes it hard for the dads who are really there for their children and to put those false allegations out there because some of these dads it pushes them so far that like they kind of just give up and they're like, all right, well, I guess I'll just see my kids when they're 18, and these kids then grow up without a dad. They're wondering why my dad left me. It's
Yep.
so bad for the children, but the mother doesn't at that point just sees red and doesn't
Yep.
see, what it's doing to the kids.
It's living in a false narrative, and a lot of people want to say stuff like they want to throw the word narcissism or psychosis out there when it's living a lie of it's living the lie. It's I've made a narrative and I have to stick with it because the reason why she's not going to come back is kind of a sense of pride and ego, and it's healthy in a sense to have those because they are defense mechanisms. But when you're it's hurting other people and hurting your family, it's that's when it becomes toxic behavior. Excuse me. That's when it becomes toxic, and that's when it becomes just downright diabolical in a sense. Um, but yeah, there's plenty of times where I've in the past year and a half where I've just wanted to give up, and just uh, end it all. Essentially, it's that's been a huge topic of contention in my life. I see a therapist and a psychiatrist every week, and I've seen one for the past 2 years just to help me work through all of this.
Yeah, what's tough too is CPS and all those people out there. They get this all the time.
Mhm.
So for them not to see the pattern and see what's going on, like it is tough because there are those real situations, but at the same time, it's like, you know, you you just saw that they were together for let's say 5 years, then they got a divorce. Now you're getting all these allegations. Well, clearly, something's going on. You get this all the time, and the same thing
Right.
happened with me. So it's like, why aren't you doing anything? Because if you don't do anything, the mother's going to keep doing what she's doing and putting these false accusations out there, and this is just going to keep continuing. So it's just like it's so frustrating.
It is very frustrating, and it's a lack of accountability. It's allowing somebody to continue to do something that isn't true, and not saying I want somebody to, everyone needs accountability because that's how we grow. That's how we can grow. Because if we're just continually doing the same thing and living in sin and doing bad things, it's just not going to be beneficial for us, especially if we're the ones that are the custodial parent and we're trying to, you know, do everything. It only causes more pain and more suffering for everyone else involved. And it's writing a check that you don't have to cash. Someone else has to cash it, and you don't care who has to cash it, but you get the money, but someone else has to foot the bill. And more times than not, it's the children. Because you can slander me. I'm not scared of any allegation. I'm not. It's You can come at me all you want. That's perfectly fine. I'm gonna stand up and I'm gonna take it. Because Rocky Balboa said it best. It doesn't matter how hard you can punch. It's how hard you can get hit and get back up again.
Yeah, that's exactly it though. She can, you're a grown ass man now. It's like
Yep.
she can do whatever to you. Yeah, some of it sucks, it
Yep.
hurts, whatever. But it's like at the end of the day, you have to look at the kids. Like it's all about the kids because what you're doing to me or you or whoever, it's affecting your girls or whatever children there are. It's like
Right.
look at the bigger picture.
And it's a like I said before, I'm a father of two daughters. So I'm the primary example of how they should expect a man to treat them. The converse or the inverse, my wife, who is the custodial parent, is showing our daughters how a woman should treat her husband throughout all of this. That's what the daughters look at. And so they're getting this example of, when she doesn't answer the phone calls and stuff like that, it shows that, oh, daddy's not important. So we can ignore his calls. After an extended amount of time, it's a learned behavior of, oh, we can just ignore his calls, or, oh, he's not calling. It's a learned behavior. It's not something that's inherent. It's detrimental to say the least.
That's great that you said that. I've never even thought about that. that way, like reversing it to the,
Hmm.
the kids looking at the mother like that. But that's 100%. Wow.
And then if you have, I don't have sons, but it's the same thing. It's like if I have sons, I'm an example of how they should treat women and how they should father and they should be parents. And a mother of
Yeah.
sons is to show how a woman is supposed to treat their husband or partner or anything like that. Because, if we had sons instead of daughters, they would be looking at this saying, this is how a woman is going to treat me. So why am I going to get married if this is what I am to expect? Because when there's no, like, we can have a disagreement and we can go through a divorce and we can do this as long as we're amicable and we're friendly and we're still, we spent 6 years together. We built a life. We got married, we had kids. We had a relationship, but now all of a sudden it's broken and it's destroyed and you don't want any part of it. We are in each other's lives because we have children. We'll be in each other's lives forever. The least we could do is be able to have a communication about just superficial and skin deep stuff. I'm not asking, let's talk about our relationship. Let's do any of this. Let's talk about how we can get back together. No, talking about the children, business is business. Let's just keep it that way. And then we can be amicable. And then that's what's best for the children. It's co-parenting and not parallel parenting, but just co-parenting.
No, I was going to ask, what is your schedule look like? Because you said she's the custodial parent. So it's not 50-50? Are you going for 50-50 or?
I'm going for 50-50. That's my goal. That's been my goal since, we got my attorney, or I got my attorney, was, just, I get him every other weekend. It's temporary orders. I get him every other weekend. So it's, your standard stuff, which is weird for Mississippi, which is where we live. It's a big state. You can't figure out where I'm from.
So they don't even do 50-50 right in the beginning. You have to build up to it or something.
They normally do, but when it was temporary hearing, it's just to get custody, set. They don't really go into any detail or depth. I'm not sure what her attorney said. I'm not sure what my attorney said. He's given me some advice or told me, but he said it really all comes down to the judge and what the judge wants to do. Because a lot more times than not, the judges want to play it safe. They'd rather be safe than sorry. And also awarding child support only benefits the state because the state can take some of it, and that's just a whole different conversation and topic to begin with. But I imagine what happened. I look at it like I can see our children. I'm able to call them. I'm able to talk to them now, and I'm able to restart that relationship with them. Even though I'm a weekend dad, it sucks. It sucks.
Yeah.
But I at least am able to see them and talk to them.
Yeah. And especially, your 5-year-old obviously has been around you for a while, but your 3-year-old is still, pretty new to this world. So it's like, to just, even though it's the weekends, man, just to have that connection with her and build that is great.
And it's everything I look forward to is able to call them during the week and to see them. It's the highlight. It just makes it all worth it. And I know I have something to fight for, and I have a reason to wake up every morning, and I have a reason to go to work, and I have a reason to provide. And it's, everything I do for them. And
it's huge. That's all it is you got to fight for your kids, and until the day you die. It's like, it's all about your children.
That's exactly correct. Exactly correct.
If you could give some advice to any dads out there, what would it be?
One thing that really helped me was being around other men, was having a community of people, because no matter how strong you are or how mentally sound and how much fortitude you have, this is a battle you can't fight on your own. Not mentally, because your house is empty. I'm religious, so it's going to men's group and going to church and being invested and involved with other people, and having people that are wiser than you that maybe have been through the situation or that are currently going through it, or, that have an idea. It's being around people and having a community. And that's, I found you through the Facebook group. There are plenty of groups out there, even your local churches, if that's something that you're interested in. Um, it's being around people and having a community and people, a community that you can reach out to when you're having hard times, because you will have hard times. That's what's going to happen every night. There are times just like, I don't talk to my family about any of this because that's not really healthy for me to have to get them involved, and they don't really know how to, handle this. So, like I said, having a community of people is probably the best advice, and being active, and don't let it destroy you, because it will, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be the hardest thing, that you've ever done and ever will do, is go through something like this. And it's on both sides of the spectrum. I'm not going to discount what my wife is going through, because she's had to step into a role that she should have never filled, going to work every day and being a single parent. It's hard on both sides. I'm not going to deny that. But when your family is no longer in the house that you built for them, and you're alone, being alone is the hardest part. So I would say, long story short, to get back to that, it's having a group of people that you can lean on when you're having hard times, and that you can be around.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot, and it's definitely one of the most powerful things, is to have a community, a sense of community, someone to talk to. Like those Facebook groups, you can post something and you'll get the answer from someone who's going through it. So yeah, it's huge. Yeah, I mean, me and you have somewhat of a similar situation. I have 2 daughters, had my kids very young. I never got married, but found out some stuff, and then, we separated. But the hard part was, I was like, oh, my ex will, 2 years later, I found a new, my girlfriend now, my wife. And I told her, I was like, I'll always have my ex's back. We've been through a lot, she's going to be great. But as soon as I found a new relationship, that's when all my stuff started going downhill, with the false accusations and, not letting me see the kids and all of that. And so it's, even though you might trust your ex, and you might think, oh, well, it's not going to get that bad, I'm not going to go through this. Think again, because
you don't know what someone else is capable of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's a fucking rough road. Just like you said, like, I almost was like, I'll see my kids when they're 18. There's no way I can keep going through this. But it's like, then again, it's, it's your kids. It's something you created. It's like, you got to go through it.
And you have to show them that you can't quit. You can't, even if it's like you can't stop fighting. Because as an example, what does that show them? When stuff gets the hardest, that's the time to quit. When it's unbearable, it's, like I said, the Rocky Balboa quote. It's silly, but those 80s Italian movies, they just, that's my heritage and that's my culture. So, but you have no idea what somebody else is capable of, and you just got to take those punches. And it's gonna hurt, and it's, trying to move on with your life, knowing that somebody might be vindictive, and that somebody might just do it because they might find it fun just to throw a wrench in your business and to just destroy your life. No, but thank you. This has been an amazing experience. I looked up the podcast and stuff like that, and I look forward to hearing more from it and listening and being an everyday listener.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and thank you for jumping on. I know it's hard for some people to talk about their story in the situation, but hopefully it's also helpful in therapy for you too, to get it off your chest and talk about it. So
it's cathartic, and at the end of the day, if my experience can help and shed light to somebody else, even one other person, it's done its job. It's beneficial, and it's just paying it forward. And it's, if I can help somebody else indirectly, that makes it all worth it. because that one person might lead into another person. And that's why we do what we do. And that's why we talk about these things. And that's why we have this community, is because it's to help others.